Hi, is anyone there? Can anyone see us?
Restart.
If you can, welcome to the Quaker Voluntary Service information session. This is the first time we've ever tried this format, so we're still figuring it out. If anyone's there, thank you for your patience as we figure out this technology. If you are there and you can hear us, it would be great if you could let us know by submitting a question. Okay, you see us, but we say it shows us as no viewers, so I assume people are there.
Okay, welcome to the Quaker Voluntary Service information session. My name is Rebecca Sullivan, and I'm the Recruitment Coordinator as well as an alum of the program from 2012 through 13.
And I'm Christina Repoli, and I'm the Executive Director, and we are based in Atlanta, which is one of our service sites. And so our plan for this evening is to spend no more than an hour together, and we're going to do a brief overview of Quaker Voluntary Service and the basic elements of the program. And we have a couple of other people here who are staff and volunteers. Everyone is an alumni of the program, and so when it comes time for you to ask questions, we're going to have several different voices that can help to answer your questions and share from their experience of Quaker Voluntary Service. Rebecca, do you want to explain how people can ask questions, because you can hear us, but we can't hear you, and so there's a way for you to submit your questions to us when you have them.
So at the top of your Google Hangout screen, you should see something that says Q&A. It should be at the top, and you should click on it, and it may also, next to it, may say Showcase. So when you're under Showcase, it shows our website, as well as our Google Plus page and our YouTube page. If you're under Questions, it says Ask your audience to submit questions, and they will appear, or that will say, like, type your question here, and then when you hit Submit, it will come to us here in the office, and we will be able to see it. If you're having questions, write in on the event page, and we will also monitor the event page as well.
Right. So
and we see that we already have one question right beforehand, and we will make sure to get to that question as we talk, as it was a good question about how the program runs.
Yeah, if you can't figure out how to submit the question via this Hangout, that's a great idea. Just use the event page, and we'll see that too. You can also email us at info@quakervoluntaryservice.org if you want to do that. So to get started, I'll just give some brief background and overview of what the program is, what we're talking about today. So Quaker Voluntary Service is a year of service program for young adults. You have to be at least 21. You don't have to be a college graduate. Often many of our volunteers and participants are college graduates, but you just have to be at least 21. And there are 4 core values of QVS, and I'm going to talk about each of the core values as a way to give you an overview of what the program is. So first, our first core value is service. So obviously, Quaker Voluntary Service is about service. We partner with local nonprofit organizations where our volunteers serve as a full-time staff person, essentially, for these nonprofits. It's a year-long commitment, so you're committing to spend a year of your life working in service to a local nonprofit organization. We work with all kinds of different organizations, from schools to social service agencies, working with immigrants, working with youth, working with homeless populations, people with disabilities, all kinds of ways of engaging in social justice issues and service. We'll talk more about what some of those specific opportunities are maybe a little bit later. The second core value of QVS is community. So probably one of the most distinctive aspects of our program as compared to, say, AmeriCorps or another service year that you might be familiar with is that our volunteers live together in a house in intentional communities. So we'll have between 6 and 8 young adults living together in a house, and each person will be part of Quaker Voluntary Service, will be working full-time in different nonprofits. And so the experience of life together in community is a really important part of our program. It's in that experience that you learn so much about yourself and about others. You work out conflicts, you figure out what you're going to eat and how you're going to cook and how you're going to spend your time and your money together. As a community, the QVS House also meets together at least weekly to do the house business, so to figure out how you want to make decisions together about how your house is organized, and also in times of worship. And so that brings me to the third core value of QVS, which is the Quaker way. If you're not familiar with Quakers, it would probably be a good idea to do a little background research into who Quakers are. We're also known as the Religious Society of Friends. And Quakers have a long history of work for peace and justice. You don't have to be a Quaker to do QVS, but we do ask that you come with an interest and a passion for exploring your spiritual life, whatever it is, and for a commitment to explore the Quaker way for a year. And so that means that we're in partnership with local Quaker meetings, local Quaker congregations, and we have a lot of support and time for community building with Quakers in our different cities, and volunteers are expected to become a regular part of the life of one of our local Quaker congregations. And then the final core value of QVS is transformation. And as you can probably imagine, spending a year in service and community and experiencing and exploring your spiritual life, we hope, leads to transformation in all kinds of different ways, both for you, the volunteer, and also for the communities that you're part of, with the Quaker community, with your service site, and the house community where you live. And so QVS is all about how we can come intentionally together during this time and be open to being transformed by each other and by Spirit. So those are the four core values of QVS. Just to say a little bit more about the practicalities, you are committing to a year, you're committing to living with other people in community. And our four cities currently are Atlanta, Georgia, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, Portland, Oregon, and Boston, Massachusetts. So if you're interested in serving with QVS, you would be placed in one of those four cities. We did have a question already on our page that was about how the service sites are selected and committed to, and there's more to that question. But I'll say briefly about how your service is determined. QVS partners with nonprofit organizations in all of our different cities, and before you even apply to QVS, we have been in relationship building with these nonprofit organizations who have already committed to working with us and to hosting a QVS volunteer in their organization. You can see a full list of all of those nonprofit organizations on our website under the tab The Work. And if you click on that tab under current site placements, you can see all the organizations where we're partnering currently. So QVS works out those relationships in advance. You apply to Quaker Voluntary Service, you're interviewed and selected, and we ask you to commit to QVS before you know for sure what your service site is, but you'll have an opportunity to interview directly with 3 or 4 of the organizations that you're most interested in serving with. So you do commit to QVS before you know, but you do have the opportunity to interview and learn a lot more about the possibilities for where you're going to serve, and then we do a matching process after that. I think there was also a question about what the day-to-day life is like for a volunteer, so I'm going to let Rebecca or one of our other alumni who are here answer that question from their own experience of what being a volunteer was like.
I'll start off with that. So you're working 40 hours a week, and so you're going to work some form of 9 to 5, 8 to 4, sort of depending on your site placement. And then, so you're going to get up, go to work, do the 9 to 5 thing, come back, and then depending on how your house has decided, you may cook dinner, or someone else may be cooking dinner for you. You may be you may be eating dinner together. You may not. That is something that the house comes up with. Your food stipend is not big enough to go out to dinner all the time at all. And so you really work together to pool your resources and create that home life together as a community and sort of a family budget idea. And then that's Monday through Friday. And then also during the week, you'll have house worship, and you'll have house business meeting that Christina talked a little bit about. And then every other Friday, or 2 Fridays in the month actually, you will have QVS day, which is a time that you won't go to work, but instead you'll spend the day as a house learning about Quakerism, learning about each other's sites, talking about important things, important things in your life and issues that are of importance that you want to spend time discussing. So that's a place for you to sort of do your vocational and spiritual discernment together through those programs. And that programming is both up to you as volunteers and up to the staff who's working with you as you bring in presenters. So that's sort of what the program looks like over both day-to-day and month-to-month. So another question that we got was, how many volunteers how many applications are we looking to fill? How many slots do we have? And that answer is, I believe, 28 is the number. We have 6, we're looking at putting 6 people in every house except for Philadelphia, where we put 8. So do the math, I think that's 26 actually. And so we're looking for plenty of spots there. I missed that. So yes.
So it looks like we have a new viewer maybe who's just joined us. So if you're with us this evening, we just want to remind you of how to ask questions. It looks like maybe the best way to do that is through the event page. So I think you should be able to see the event page and just post something right to that page, and we're monitoring that, so we'll see questions as they come in on the event page. So if you have any questions, please go ahead and write those into the event page, and we would be happy to answer them.
So maybe we should talk about stipend?
Right. So
everyone has this question.
I'm sure this is on everyone's mind. How much do you get paid? So QVS, part of the way we do this work with you is that we provide you with a place to live. We pay all of the utilities on the house where you live, including internet, and we give you a public transportation pass for your city or a small transportation stipend. We give you a shared food and grocery allowance with your other housemates, so you're pooling $100 a month per person in your house. So if you have 6 people in your house, that's $600 a month that you're pooling together in a shared grocery stipend. And then each of you will also get $125 a month as your personal stipend, spending money to do whatever you want with during that month. We also offer health insurance to anyone who needs it, and a small fund to help cover medical costs that might come up for you during the year, even if you have health insurance for co-pays or that kind of thing that might come up from time to time. Am I forgetting anything? We also are able to help you defer your student loans. If you have student loans, that might be a hindrance to thinking about doing a year like this of service. Most of the time, your loans are able to be deferred for the year of your service, and so we would help you with that process if you let us know that that's something that you would need help with. Another thing to keep in mind, I think sometimes folks hear the word voluntary service, a year of service, and think, well, that means I'm giving up a year of my life, I'm not making any money, and making a huge sacrifice to do service. And in a way, that's true. All of your basic needs are taken care of. You won't be saving a lot of money or any money probably during your year, but your needs will be taken care of. But another way to look at this is that this is a year of professional development and professional experience in a setting, in an organization where you may not be qualified to be hired into that organization if you're right out of college or don't have a lot of work experience. But through QVS, you're given really important responsibilities in the organization where you're working. And I think it's true that maybe 6 to 8 of our volunteers in the past have been hired on by the organizations where they were serving. In fact, two of those people are sitting in the room with us tonight who did a year of service with QVS and then were offered full-time employment by their site placement organizations going forward. So that doesn't always happen, but it definitely shows you that the year of service with QVS is a really great opportunity to gain some professional experience and possibly leading to a job in the future. Certainly a great resume builder. It's also a great way, if you're interested in living in one of our 4 cities, to relocate to a city where you might not have any connections, you might not know anyone, and you automatically have a place to live, a community, a group of peers, and meaningful work, as well as connection to a spiritual community. So there's lots of different ways of looking at what the QVS experience is all about. You certainly will be giving a year of your life in service to others in a really meaningful way. And you'll also be gaining a whole lot through that experience professionally, personally, spiritually, in all kinds of ways. So I think I just always want to remind people of all of the benefits and ways that being part of QVS can really help set you on a professional path, as well as being a really transformative opportunity to serve others.
And we just had a question come in about the Quaker Spiritual Mentor part of our program. So a key part of the program is the Quaker way and learning about Quaker process and creating Quaker relationships. And part of that is that we have spiritual nurturers that as a participant you meet with monthly, and this is just your sort of one-on-one connection with someone in the meeting who is, you know, available to listen, available to ask sort of spiritual formation questions, available to be your one-on-one contact, and to sort of be there to support you. So I'll talk a little bit about my mentor. My mentor and I, we had a lot of fun. My mentor loves to bake, and so we frequently met and baked, but we were also in that same time able to have fun while baking and ask hard questions. So when we got together, she would ask, how are things going? And I would be able to ask questions. I would be able to talk about what was going, process my experience, but she would also remind me that, you know, where is Spirit or God in that complaining, if I was complaining, or in that like statement and that processing, and remind me to pull back and sit down for that of God, or the back to my religious roots as well, and remind me about that importance of my spiritual practice and all of those things. So that relationship for me and for most of my housemates during the year was very important in being a time that during the month that you weren't home. You know, no one met with their mentors in our house. You would go elsewhere, and you would have some private one-on-one time outside of the house and be able to just process whatever you needed to process, and also have the you also led that experience. So you sort of took leadership in like what you wanted out of that within what your mentor could offer. So that was my experience with my mentor. Yeah.
Just a reminder, if anyone else has recently joined the video call, that if you have questions, you can submit those by going to the event page and just entering your question into the comment box on the event page, and we're monitoring that, and we are happy to take any more questions that you might have about the QVS experience and what it's all about. Applications are due on March 15th. At that point, we will be reviewing all of the applications that have come in as a group of staff members, and then we will be letting you know if we would like to interview you. All of our interviews most likely will happen in this kind of format via Google Hangouts or Skype, unless we happen to be in the same city with you, in which case we would interview you in person. But we'll have an interview with you, and then it will be a process of mutual discernment. You know, that is a time to continue to ask questions and to continue to think about whether this is the right experience for you, and for us to get to know you better. And then if you are accepted to QVS, we would probably be letting you know that by the end of April, And at that point, we would begin the process of hooking you up with the different nonprofit organizations where you're interested in serving and letting you begin an interview process with those organizations to determine what your service site will be. We would place you in a city before that, so you would know I'll be in QVS in Atlanta or in Boston, and then from within that city you would be having the list of service sites for each city that you could interview with. So that's kind of the process, and we would hope to have all of that known and sorted out by the end of May, so that before you start your summer you'll know where you're going and what your work is going to be. And then we'll have a week-long orientation for all of our volunteers the last week of August, and you will start your service at the beginning of September. So that's the kind of time frame that we're looking at for the QVS year as it begins.
So I have a question based off that, Christina. If I'm interested in only going to one city, or if I'm interested in lots of cities, where do I get to have that conversation with you? And before you answer that, I'm just going to put out there for those who are viewing, our application is a form on our website at www.quakervoluntaryservice.org/apply. And that form requires you to answer questions, including essay questions, which we recommend that you first do in a word processing setting, because you have to fill out the whole form before you submit. And you also need 3 references. So you need to start thinking about those references and how to, who you want those references to be. They are a variety of references. They're not just academic or professional references. So my question was, how do I say what sites I want to go to?
So when you fill out your application, there's an opportunity for you to select a checkbox for which cities you're interested in serving in. So if you would be interested in all 4 of our cities, you can click all 4 of them. If you're really only interested in Boston and Atlanta, you can click those 2. And you know, there's an opportunity for you to say, is there anything else you'd like for us to know about your city selection? But when you interview with us would be a time that you could really tell us, you know, I selected Philadelphia and Boston, but I feel really most excited about Boston, and here's why. So we'll have a conversation about that. The more cities that you are interested in, the more likely it is that you'll be accepted to QVS, because we have a lot of things to balance related to the service sites, the mix of personalities. You know, we're putting together a group of people to live in community, so it's really important that to the extent possible we're able to put a group of people together that we think is going to mesh well and bring different gifts to the house. So the more flexible and open you can be about what city you want to be in, the more likely you are to be accepted to QVS. But we certainly will be working with you to place you in the city where you're most excited to be. I think we've had a question. Okay, we've had 2 questions come in that I can see. One is about the age range of QVS volunteers, and then another question about the alumni program. So I'll answer both of those. The age range, you have to be 21, so that's the minimum age, and then we'll accept applications all the way up to age 30. So 21 to 30 is the age range. Most of our volunteers tend to be in their early 20s. Most folks do QVS right out of college, 1 or 2 years out of college, but not always. And we've certainly had volunteers who have loved the program and been really successful who are a little bit older. So most of our volunteers do tend to be in their early 20s, but that's not always the case. So 21 to 30 is the age range. We had a question about the QVS Alumni House. This is a new program, and that also gives us an opportunity to talk a little bit about the alumni experience. So I'll talk about the Alumni House, but then maybe I'll switch places with one of our other 2 alumni who's here in the room and let them talk some more about their experience. This year we're also opening an alumni fellowship program in Philadelphia. So for anyone who has done 1 year of service with QVS in any of our cities at any time, you'd be eligible to apply for this alumni fellowship in Philadelphia. And in this case, it will be somewhat similar to the first year of QVS in that you will live in a house together with the other alumni fellows, and you'll all work. You'll do service again, but in this case, all of the service is with Quaker organizations, specifically in Philadelphia. So this is more of a professional leadership development for Quakers, for the Religious Society of Friends and different Friends organizations in Philadelphia. So that's a new program. We're really excited about that. We also have a farm program that is new this year as well, and I can say more about that later, but if anyone is particularly interested in sustainable agriculture and farming, we're partnering with an organic farm outside of Philadelphia and placing a few 6-month-long volunteer placements for young adults to learn about sustainable agriculture and farming, and that's a program that's going to run from June to November of this year, and that's called Peace Farm, so we can say more about that if anyone's interested. But I'm going to switch places with maybe with Liz, who is our Atlanta coordinator for QVS, and she's also an alum. She was in our first class here in Atlanta along with Rebecca, and I'll let Liz talk a little bit more about whatever she wants to, but maybe what it was like for her to do QVS and what she learned from it, and a little bit more about being an alum of QVS.
Hello, I'm Liz Nicholson. I did the Quaker Voluntary Service Program 2 years ago now. It was the first year of the program in Atlanta, and yeah, it was a really amazing, challenging, wonderful experience in 100 different ways. I think it's been fun to be a couple of years out of the program now and to really be able to reflect on what I learned from it. Some things that stood out during the year, a lot of interpersonal growth, a lot of opportunity for collaboration with housemates. So you're stepping into an intentional community with wonderful people wonderful strangers mostly, who come with a host of experience, knowledge, background, diversity of beliefs. We're a cross-branch organization and really explore a lot of the wonderful things Quakerism has to offer. And it's an opportunity to learn from one another and to grow and to experience the good and bad of community. I think something that I realized about halfway through the year was what a fertile ground the program is to experiment on a lot of different things that you want to take with you for the rest of your life. So a lot of practice on conflict resolution, a lot of practice on sustainable cooking, cleaning, how to work a 40-hour work week. That was a very new and foreign thing for me. And I have definitely grown in all of those things. That's a good way to learn what you do and don't like, both in a housing situation, in friendships, and also at work. I realized quickly that the work environment that I was in was not necessarily the most supportive, and was given a lot of freedom in figuring out how to utilize the skills that I brought to the program and explore what that looked like, what that relationship looked like. Yeah, I think there's a lot more I could say. Do you want to share a bit about your experience too?
Yeah, I think Liz touched on a lot of them for me. I was thinking recently about the challenges of coming into community, and we talk a lot about seasons in the house and sort of the seasons that come with growth. So we arrive and we want to be best buds right away, and we want to do everything together, and then we have to learn how not to burn ourselves out as a house, and how to remember that we're individuals and we all need to take space and have some processing time ourselves. And then through that, we learn again how to sort of interact with each other and how to have ask the questions and have the conversations we want. And I was really reflecting recently on that time period of the house for me, and just sort of stepping out and saying, like, I really wanted to, two of us really wanted to spend some time reading the Bible and trying to learn about the Bible. That other housemate and I just sort of said, like, hey, we're going to meet on Saturday afternoons or Saturday mornings and spend some time talking and reading the Bible and understanding the Bible and learning about the different translations of the Bible and who's who and the characters and all of that. And just like that ability to ask the questions that we wanted to learn about and remember that the program was ours, and we're individuals who are active in that aspect. And so that was something that was really important for me in learning where to go from there. Kelsey, do you want to answer this question?
Hello, I'm Kelsey. I've been listening and keeping lists of things I want to say. I learned a whole lot of things in QVS. Mostly I learned the things that I didn't want to be learning, and that was why I was learning them then. That's one of the things that the house kind of living in community with so many folks, you wind up noticing the things, the places where you're bumping up against each other, and you need to work through them. Yeah. So I learned the things I didn't want to be learning. I also learned a lot about community development. My site placement felt like a really phenomenal match for me, and answered a lot of questions I had been asking about the world. So that was a really wonderful thing. One of the interesting things about pooling money as a house, because we were buying our food together, is that we all had different strategies of how to do that, and they were all really valid strategies. But using 7 different strategies is not cheap, and so we had to kind of narrow in, and that process of figuring out what was our house strategy going to be was a really educational process. I also feel like the house, and this has to do with the relationship with the meeting as well as the whole house, taught me a lot about how to ask for help. That wasn't something that I did. And I specifically remember walking into the house. This is a story that we all remind each other of a lot. Walking into the house when we came to Atlanta, and it was fully furnished by the meeting, by things that they had. They had spent hours and hours moving the furniture, cleaning everything, and the sheets were on the beds. That was my first moment with QVS was receiving a gift from people that I didn't know. And it continued. Every time we needed to ask for help from the meeting, they not only offered it, but like willingly and in abundance. We asked for, I forget what it was, some kitchen thing, and we got like 10 of them and needed to be careful with it. I needed a car for work. I stood up in meeting and asked, does anyone have a car I could use for a weekend? And I got like 3 offers. And so I had to practice receiving. And that was what I didn't want to be learning, and what I learned. Other folks practice different things. But the spiel from me.
So, thank you.
Yeah.
All of our experiences, as I talk to alums and as we continue to grow, are about that growth and that ability to find the transformation, both at the workplace and in our individually, as well as in our community. And I realize that we've been mentioning the meeting, but we haven't actually talked about that relationship with QVS. So every city that QVS is in, that city, the Quaker meeting or meetings in that city have asked us to come to that city. So they've submitted a proposal and said that we're going to take care of that community, and we're going to support the young adults who are coming in.
They mean it.
And they mean it, as you can tell. Like they've furnished our houses, and they've offered support. That's where our nurturers come from. So in Atlanta, it's the Atlanta Friends Meeting. In Philadelphia, it's Green Street Friends Meeting this year. And in Boston, Friends Meeting of Cambridge is the official sponsor, although there's other meetings who are also looking at helping out. And in Portland, Oregon, we have both 2 Friends meetings and 2 Friends Quaker churches who are taking that spiritual care. And so in that house, they choose which Quaker meeting that's important. So a Quaker meeting is the church that we attend, and there's a couple of different branches of Quakerism, and one is a programmed meeting where it sort of looks more like your traditional mainstream Christian church with a pastor, and one is an unprogrammed. The other type of Quakerism is an unprogrammed worship, where we gather in a circle and we wait for everyone. Everyone's waiting in expectant worship for God to speak to them, because in all Quakerism, no matter what branch, we believe that God speaks directly to us, and we don't have to have an intermediary.
And there's a pretty common joke in Quakerism that if you ask 10 Quakers what it means to be Quaker, you will get at least 10 answers. You hear Rebecca use the word God. It's a word that she's really comfortable and familiar with, and some Quakers will not use that word. Some Quakers will use spirit or Lord or earth, or there's like a ridiculous range of words that people are comfortable using. That's true both inside each individual church or meeting, again, semantics, and also within the houses themselves. So that was one of the really rich pieces of the house. Rebecca was talking earlier about that, people sitting down to open a Bible. I've opened a Bible before, but it was really interesting to see those 2 people sit down and open different Bibles and have a conversation about what the same line in 2 different Bibles meant to them. And as someone, I'm coming from a place where I'm less comfortable with the Bible, and instead of panicking and running away to the woods where I'm comfortable, I can still have my woods, and I can also learn to interact with the Bible and there's just fascinating conversations. So the houses and the meetings are theologically diverse, and Quakerism as a whole is. So, yeah. And thank you. Liz has written me a sign. You don't have to be Quaker to be a part of QVS, and that is true. You have to be willing to engage with Quakerism for a year and try it on, see what it feels like to you, see how, what it feels like to you, but you do not have to be a Quaker to be in QVS.
You have to be Quaker willing, as it is sort of central to some of our programming, but we don't say what the theology of that is.
One thing that's been interesting for me recently, so I'm one of the folks who's been hired back on at my service site, and I've been there a couple years now. And just recently, I've said, like in the last 3 weeks, I've probably said upwards of 5 times, "Oh my gosh, this is exactly like the house!" And I will notice dynamics, and it's in an office, but it's true in the world and everywhere else also, that I see patterns and I realize, oh gosh, that's what was happening in the house, and I didn't really get it at the time, but I'm only able to see this now because I've come from the house. And as an alum, I'm still processing, what does that mean? A lot of what I'm learning from the house is I'm continuing to learn. But it's the office. My work site happened to be office-based. They're not all office-based. Side note, but what applies in the office, it also applies in the house. They feed each other.
So maybe this is a good time for us to spend a little bit of time talking about the variety of service that our site placements have. You want to talk a little bit about what service looked like in your organization? I mean, we're using the word service as an organization to sort of mean work and giving back are giving and working with sort of groups that have been minorities in some way, but not always.
Wording on the website. Go find it. I have not memorized in it, and it's gorgeous.
I could read it.
There we go. It's on the wall.
Service. We seek to create and sustain a culture of service within the broader Quaker community and foster a lifetime of service as we learn the joy of giving of ourselves for the good of the world and in gratitude to God. We strive to serve to contextually appropriate ways.
In contextually appropriate ways.
In contextually appropriate ways that affirm the dignity of all persons and sovereignty of all communities. We will practice solidarity rooted in mutually empowering relationships.
And can I jump in?
Mm-hmm.
So I actually originally heard about QVS, and I said, absolutely not another service program. I'm sick of people trying to help people. And a couple months later, Rebecca brought the application to me again, and this time I read the website. Some folks in the house will come in with an understanding of service as helping, and some folks will come in with an understanding, with a wide variety of understandings of what service means, and that's one of the richnesses in the house also, is you get to dialogue inside the house about what is it that you're doing, what does that mean, why are you doing it, are you doing it in your house community, in your neighborhood community, at your service site, maybe you have friends in other places, you have other communities, what do these words mean, is a pretty big thing.
Yeah. Yeah, in my service site, I was working for American Friends Service Committee, helping sort of revamp the youth program here in Atlanta, trying to rewrite some curriculum and launch a new program, which in the long term didn't get launched because they didn't continue to get staffing for the program. But it was a good opportunity to learn curriculum development and to learn how to do evaluations of programs. Was something I really learned in that service, as well as how to lead youth workshops, empowerment workshops for refugee youth is what I was working with.
Christina, do you have other pieces you want to?
I was just going to add to the service thing, that just to give some more examples, and you can look at our website to find out all of the detailed information about our partners, but we have someone working at a place here called the Southern Center for Human Rights, and she is doing amazing work visiting people in prisons all over the Southeast and documenting abuses in prisons leading to a change in legislation. We have someone here working at Habitat for Humanity Atlanta who's working with families to help them learn about and qualify for Habitat homes. We've got someone at a school in Philadelphia who is helping lead their create and build from the ground up and lead their music department. They didn't have one before QVS was there, and so we've helped that school create a really beautiful music department. We have someone in Philadelphia who's working with a grant-making organization that gives small grants to grassroots nonprofits and social change organizations, which is a very different kind of service. So I think what we're trying to convey is that we work with organizations that do a wide variety of things. Direct service, working directly with people, is a big part of most people's job, but all of them differ in the amount of direct service versus advocacy and that kind of thing. And one beautiful thing about a program like ours, unlike AmeriCorps or some other programs that have more restrictions, our volunteers can really do a lot of different things, including advocacy and more social change work that isn't only direct service, although we do that as well. So it's a really diverse and wonderful opportunity to get your hands on all kinds of different things and then learn from the people in your house about the issues that they're working on as well. We did have someone who said they wanted to hear a little bit more about the Peace Farm. And Elijah, if you're still listening, we posted the link to the website of the Peace Farm, which is thepeacefarm.org. And this is a partnership between Quaker Voluntary Service and a Mennonite service program called DOOR and the farmers and their farm. And so you can learn a lot more about it on that website, thepeacefarm.org. But basically, it will be sort of similar to QVS, except that your site placement would be on the farm, working directly with organic farmers, learning sustainable farming practices, and incorporating conversations and reflection about faith and spirituality and how faith and farming and the land and God and all those things are connected. It's only a 6-month program this time instead of a year-long program, and it starts, applications are also due on March 15th for the Peace Farm, and it will start at the beginning of June and run through the end of November. The farm is outside of Philadelphia, about an hour northwest of Philadelphia in Valley, Pennsylvania. But definitely check out thepeacefarm.org to learn all about that, and we are excited to be partnering in that new project this year. If there are any other questions as we're coming towards the end of the hour, please make sure to write them in the box on our event page. But also, we're really happy to answer questions outside of this forum as well. You can always go to our website and find contact information for all of us individually, but you can also very easily send an email to info@quakervoluntaryservice.org, and we will be sure that one of us replies to you. So we're really happy to be in conversation to help you discern if this is the right opportunity for you, to answer any more specific questions that you might have, and to share more about our experiences.
And again, the application and interview process is also part of that discernment and part of that program. So if you're saying, like, gosh, the application's due in, 2 weeks, just over 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks, and it doesn't feel like a lot of time, go ahead, start the application. The application has some essays that will help you start thinking about that discernment and help you understand that discernment. And our interview process continues that conversation, helping us mutually understand what it is about the program and what it is that you're hoping to get out of the program and offer to the program. So go to that application. Again, it's a form that you fill out on our website at www.quakervoluntaryservice.org/apply. And remember that you have references who also need to fill out a form. So make sure you look at our reference page and ask your references to start thinking about what they're going to say. And these aren't they aren't just sort of job application and advisor references. They're there's roommate recommendation.
There's a section on our website that with the apply page of frequently asked questions. So if there is a question that comes up that you might not have gotten the answer to or didn't think to ask, check there. We may have thought of it, and there may be an answer for you on the website just based on a lot of questions that we've gotten in the past from applicants. But like I said, we're always happy to have a further conversation with you, whether by email or phone. So please don't hesitate to get in touch. Probably the easiest way is through our website, which is www.quakervoluntaryservice.org. We also have a really active Facebook page where we're always posting events, and we're doing a lot of visits to colleges and universities around the country, as well as sponsoring, other events that our partner organizations are doing. And our Facebook page, we will also be profiling each of our service sites coming up over the next few weeks, so you can see them and learn more. But that's also on our website. So please get in touch with us if you have more questions, and we really hope that you will apply. Like Rebecca said, even if you're not 100% sure that this is the thing you want to do, we hope you'll apply so that we can be part of that conversation with you as you think about what's coming next.
Also, if you are thinking, not this year, but some year down the road, I want to apply, please shoot me an email to recruitment@quakervoluntaryservice.org, and I can put your name and your email address and what year either you're graduating from college or what year you'd like to be contacted for us to send you an email reminder. The December or January of the application season that you would be applying for. So if you're graduating in 2016, you tell me 2016, and in December of 2015 or January of 2016, we'll send you an email that says, hey, our application's live. You showed interest in the past. Just wanted to make sure that you're still aware of that. So that is something that we offer for those who are still maybe you haven't graduated yet or aren't graduating. So.
Great. Well, thank you all so much for joining us and for your patience in this experiment. This is the first time we've done this, and it was fun to get your questions. So thank you, and this video, should you want to watch it again, will be available on our YouTube. And like I said, please get in touch if you have any more questions, and hope everyone has a great night.